Hey, this is Sean with the Atlanta Tennis Podcast, powered by GoTennis. Check out our calendar of Metro Atlanta tennis events at letsgotennis.com. And right now on the podcast, we want to make it your podcast. We want to hear your story. Go to letsgotennis.com/my story because it is your story, and tell us your exciting event that happened. You hit a great shot, something terrible happened, whatever is interesting. We want to hear the story. letsgotennis.com/my story and share. You'll be entered to win some great stuff, all that. Today is 10 minutes of tennis with world-renowned tennis coach Justin Yeo, Australian in Puerto Rico, who I'm pretty sure just got pooped on by a bird. But today we're going to talk about data, whatever you want to pronounce it, however you want to say it. Data is king. What does that mean, Justin?
Yeah, data is king, but I'm going to put the shout out to everybody. Let's hear some questions. What do you want to hear about? What do you want to learn more about? We're starting to get a bit of an audience, so start sharing whether it's what you want to learn more about, and let us shape some of this 10 minutes around what you need. So anyway, that's a little shout out from me. Yeah, data is king. I mean, data has been around for at least the last 30 years. And it's deep into it now. I mean, a lot of players are utilizing all sorts of data against opponents so they know what kind of tactics they need to play when they need it. So that's really deep into the game right now. Most people don't have access to that for their own data. But what I will tell you is it's not that hard to have a friend chart your match and learn how many unforced errors you made and where your forced errors are and where your unforced errors are. How many backhands you hit, how many forehands you hit. But, the one thing that continues to still shine through all the data is the first serve percentage. They still number one on the list on the TV when the players are winning. The first thing they'll show is their high percentage first serves. So high percentage first serve is still one of the kings when we look into data. But data for itself, like I said, for a normal amateur, for a junior, I would start looking into this stuff. I would start looking into ball speed between racket to racket. It's not that hard to go across a tennis court in a junior tournament and measure what it's like between racket to racket. So you can start to understand, wow, that kid's really hitting the ball faster than that kid. And there's a lot of factors that are involved in data that you can actually start to utilize yourself. Just things like, Craig Shaughnessy is crushing it right now. Fellow Aussie around the world right now. I mean, Djokovic uses it in a lot to analyze and understand his opponents and understand what people are playing so that Djokovic can look into the game and improve things. Federer in his last few years was learning that he had to be quicker between center mark to the singles line and the singles line to center mark. If he could increase that by a couple of milliseconds, that's already helping him recover, take the advantage on the next shot, possibly hit another forehand, possibly hit a better backhand cross court. So there's all these things in data that we're understanding that's making the sport more effective, more tactical. And I just say open your eyes to it because it's there. There's a lot of stuff that IBM publishes online. They've said that the average rally is 0 to 4 shots. So what are we doing? We should be training kids how to be better at 4 shots. Don't wait for 4 shots. I grew up like guy would say you need to rally 50 balls in a row. Well, who the hell rallies 50 balls in a row? Nobody anymore. It's 0 to 4 shots. Get better at 4 shots. Get better at 4 shots. Take advantage as quick as you can. Not saying that you can't rally 50 balls and that you have to practice that sometimes to be ready for the long point, but it's not most of your points. So the data is proven that, we need to start taking advantage as early as possible between serve return and trying to, manipulate the court as quick as possible.
All right, so I'll push back on 0 to 4 is the way to go right now, because in that case, I think we would have 5 Americans in the top 5, because our Americans not the ones that are big serve, big forehand, the best at winning the 0 to 4 shots, but how does that play out with the Americans not quite being able to hang out in the top 10 anymore? Side note,
that's
I know.
That's a totally different story. But maybe the data shows their where their errors are. I commonly talk about, when you talk about tennis, it's all between the ears. You can actually recognize patterns in data by seeing that you hit 2 good points and then drop a point and then drop a point again. What they've done lately is they've shown data on heart rate and correlated that to unforced errors, or correlated that to what we call mind fog or dream world, when you lose attention span on the court. And then they start also correlating the time of each point and starting to recognize where it is your attention span is the best and how much you take advantage of points, and where you actually get in trouble where the longer points are. So there's all these factors in data that maybe, I don't know, Fritz and all these guys you're talking about, maybe there's some kind of data there that they need to start recognizing, the mental parts and all the other things, all the factors involved in that. But if I'm correlating data to the American side of things, maybe it's to do with that. There's so many factors I have about American tennis right now, so I don't want to get into that. We need way more than 10 minutes.
Yeah, sorry, that was a bit of a side note.
And I'm good friends with Andy and John Roddick and all these guys, and Todd Martin and I have had some big conversations that there's a lot of factors, there's a lot of things coming into player development to try to improve in the American side of tennis. Women's side is flying though; it's always been flying for the last 10 years, but the data itself is one of the key factors that's helping a lot of players understand how to manipulate these things.
So to the amateur player, then, we all know that IBM has their fancy stats that they run with the professional player, and the amateur player just says two things in my mind. I don't have that kind of data. And what I also don't have is the knowledge of the next person I'm about to play, because most of our tennis, especially in Atlanta, is league play. I'm going to go play in a neighborhood I may or may not have been to before against a doubles pair that I may or may not have played before. And usually I'm running up against somebody that I've never played before. So I don't have that pre-match schedule of strategy that comes in that says I'm ready to play against this person because it's a professional tennis player and I know everything about them, which is good because they're not a professional tennis player.
Okay, I can give a little bit of a hint on that one.
Okay.
It's not hard, not necessarily to pay a coach, but to pay a friend or to have a teammate and start taking stats on each team that you play, so that when you go to play them again, you can start to identify where their errors are, where they do and don't like. But you really have to understand the 3 dimensions of the court: side to side, up and down, forward and back. You have to identify, forehand, backhand errors, net game, and then in the graphing that you're marking down all those things that then eventually will give you some stats that the next time you play that team, maybe also if the teams mix up and change doubles partners, you still know specifically data on each person. It's not that hard to do, but it gives you something else you have to do instead of sitting around while you're waiting for your match to play. Juniors, same thing.
To put everybody together.
Juniors is the same thing. You could create a journal, my player development journal with the kids. They would have to go around, look at the draw, possibly the players they would possibly play, because if you get 128 draw, there's only a certain amount of players that you're possibly going to hit in your area. And you would start walking around each match and start making down notes of what toolbox in your toolbox will hurt that person's toolbox. So you're analyzing all those matches before you get to that match and you have to play those players.
All right. And for the amateur player, whether it's a junior or an adult playing on the weekend, playing out to USTA T2, go grab, if you're interested, I'll put them in the show notes for this, for the audio and for the video. I will put in links. We've got partnerships with some of them, affiliates with some of them, to say there is SwingVision, there is Baseline Vision, I think is the other one it's called. There's Tennis Analytics. There are video analytics tools that are coming out for the amateur player that you hang your camera up there and it will track your match for you. Then you have your data on your opponent as well. They're also coming out soon with line call ability. So you can then take away any of those arguments. You just say, we're going to go with the line call on the camera, and that's going to take away a lot of those fights as well. Justin Yeo, we need to follow up with this, I'm sure, but right now our 10 minutes are up. Thank you, sir. This has been 10 Minutes of Tennis. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Happy hitting.